Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Behind the Scenes Part 2. This is the Sales Ops Effect, where we drive predictable growth in small to medium-sized businesses. Part 1, we were talking about me going into services rather than courses, although my courses are still available. I'm just focusing more on services so I can get much more results for more people. And this episode is talking about how I planned how I'm going to do it in terms of the numbers, in terms of the goals. Now, obviously, I'd recommend everybody have a CRM. That's a client relationship management system. It's not just a giant filing cabinet for all of your client stuff. If you put the right data in there, then you will have reports that you can set to auto download depending on what service you have, what CRM you have. And you can have dashboards that show you what's happening effectively live, right? Because that's a whole thing where we're talking about leading indicators and lagging indicators. So your lagging indicators are, revenue. But leading indicators are things like your content, your marketing, how many new opportunities have been added. If you have leads that are separate from contacts, you might look at that. It's a whole thing. And business owners don't need to know the ins and outs of everything at that level. But if you have your CRM set up appropriately, then all of the information that you're putting in it can tell you what's happening in your business, so that when you have a question, all you have to do is look at a report or look at a dashboard and it will tell you what's going on. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are using things like Monday.com and using it effectively like a fancy Excel sheet where it stores all the information. That's great, but you can't easily look at things at a high level. And I'm not too familiar with Monday.com. I'm just remembering it from a conversation that I had when I was doing a lot of research, talking to a lot of business owners over the past few weeks. And she said that there were dashboards in there, but they seemed far too complicated. She didn't know what they were for. She didn't know how to look at them. So she does effectively use it as a filing cabinet and a task management system, which those two things are needed, but that's not where all of the power is, right? And that is something that, we go through in all of my services. But anyway, my CRM, I love Salesforce. I am not sponsored by Salesforce in any way, but Salesforce is something I effectively professionally grew up with. Just realized I still have my glasses on. And so it's a behemoth of a machine, and you can flex it in all different kinds of ways. You do not have to use Salesforce, but pretty much every CRM should do the basic things. Store your information. You should be able to pull reports and ideally be able to have a dashboard that shows you what's happening. And the CRM that I have, because, it's like you've got lots of different software that you end up buying. And so there was two different pieces of software that said that they both have a CRM in it. One of them, you would effectively have had to build it from scratch, which I know how to do, but I really didn't want to, because that's not what that system was designed for. And so I think I would have had to make too many concessions. It would have taken too long just for me to have something that existed for me. And again, I needed to have it at a certain level because I know the depths of what you can use a CRM for. And so how I've built mine isn't necessarily the same as how I would encourage other people to build it, but I know I want to see certain things because of the way my brain works, because I'm too far into sales ops to just have things missing. And so anyway, the system that I have, the CRM that I have, is a built-in system that is the same one that stores my courses and it stores my contracts and things like that. It's a new system that is being built by somebody in the UK, a company in the UK. And so because it's new, it's cheaper because they're building it as they go. So there's certain clunky things that are just there now that will be completely smoothed out in about 6 months. And I've had it for a year and I've already seen how far it's come. And so for what it is, and it has my calendar scheduling system in there as well. It's got so many things. I'm just like, this is the one I'm going to stick to because I can see where they're going. And it's, I wouldn't say cheap, but it's definitely cheaper than other things that have most of these things in and not all of them. And I'd rather grow with them. And I've been listening to and have bought from the person who owns it many times before. So I trust it essentially, right? Now, in the dashboard that it has there, like I say, it's clunky at the moment, but is getting better. So it can show very, very clearly because you can set up your pipelines and your opportunities and everything in there. There's automation, which is fantastic. So it shows you, it tracks how many deals that are coming in and the amount, and you can filter them and everything. And that's great. And what stage they're in, etc. And you've got flexibility over that. That is fantastic. But what it doesn't have is the opportunity to pull through reports into the dashboard based off of custom fields yet. So there are a few things that I'm just very, very used to seeing that it doesn't have yet. And so I've had to build in those custom fields, which it now lets you. But I take that information and I export that into an Excel so that it can show me the other three graphs that I needed. And this is what I needed. Big, long talk to get there. But anyway, so we were talking last week about how at the end of the talk, you know what your goals are for the month, but because all of my services are split payment, they don't have to be, but I just designed them that way, reasons. And everything's over 3 months. If I know how much money I want in the bank in a certain month, that's not the same number as the amount of sales that I want to close with, because generally speaking, mostly speaking, I won't be getting all of my money in the bank on the same day that somebody signs a contract or somebody signs up to the group, right? And that's a thing that some people don't necessarily think about. Your sale isn't necessarily the same day that you get all of your money. Sometimes it is, but in a lot of cases for people, if you do have payment plans, then it isn't. And your goal plans need to be adjusted accordingly if that is the case. And a lot of people don't make that adjustment. And then there's a big old gap when it comes to cash flow, right? So I did put a ton of stuff in Excel. I haven't even neatened it up in a way that makes it easier for other people to see, but eventually I will, right? So I put that in Excel and just figured that out. And then from there, if I knew how much money I needed in the bank, then I had to track back, because if everything is split up into three, I had to track back to when do I need to win this amount of money in July to know that it spreads over July, August, and September, right? So I had to change from looking at my revenue forecast number, money in the bank, to looking at my sales closed win number. Okay, so this is a different number, right? Cool. And then, because a lot of people just look at their sales closed win number and just say, I need this amount of money, and then that's what they go for. But that's one of the ways that you end up with months that look like an erratic heartbeat. They're just all over the place, up and down, up and down, up and down, because you're looking at effectively the end result. It's not, because it's not necessarily money in the bank, but you're looking at your closed won number and doing all of your actions like as if you're going to win every single deal. And that doesn't mean to say that you should look at deals like as if, oh, well, you're not going to win all of them, so you don't have to pay attention to all of them. That's not what I'm saying. But the reality is that I've never seen a business that has 100% win rate. And I mean win rate for new business, right? Because the win rate can be different for new business versus renewals, returned clients versus expanded business. But we'll talk about that in another episode, right? But generally speaking, I'm thinking about new business here. What you want to do, if you know that your sales won number, your closed win number for August is going to be like 5K or whatever, right? Then you need to divide that number by the percent of your win rate. So if your win rate was 11%, I'm picking a number, then you take the 5,000 and you divide it by 11%, and it's going to give you a much bigger number. For some people, your win rate is much higher because most of your business is returned clients. Cool. So the number won't be too far off. But this is a key thing that people just miss all the time. Your win rate isn't something that should just be sitting there looking pretty, right? You take that number and you take your goal number, and your goal number divided by your win rate number will tell you how big your pipeline needs to be at any one time. The size of your whole pipeline, your whole funnel at any one time needs to be a certain number, because if you continue in the future as you have done in the past, your probability of winning, your win rate, will be the same or roughly the same. So if you do only win 11%, 20%, or whatever of your deals, if you set if you're looking at your whole pipeline is the exact amount of money that you're expecting to win, then you're only really likely going to win the smaller number, the 20%, the 11%, whatever the win rate is. And I've spoken to companies all the time, and they're just like, oh, well, yeah, we've got a good pipeline. It's like, okay, so what's your goal? It's 6 million. Okay, how big is the pipeline? 6.5. Oh, okay, well, what's your win rate? Oh, it's about 5%. So do you genuinely think you're going to win all of those deals or most of those deals? It's just like, oh, well, yeah, they're a sure thing. Oh, okay. But you're also not adding anything new to the pipeline. So once you've won those deals, your pipeline is going to plummet, because once you've closed a deal, be it won, lost, or closed not qualified, then it exits out of the pipeline, because pipeline means open deals only, right? So if you do win those deals and there's no new deals coming in, then what happens in the following months? And this is what people forget. Launching is great when you do the whole big thing and you've got a big old event and things like that. And that's great. And it brings in a lot of leads. But that doesn't mean the rest of the time you should be quiet. Launching should supplement, if you want, reliable, consistent revenue anyway, should supplement your general sales process. It's just too much of a risk to put everything on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 events in a year and hope you're going to get all of your leads and all of your money just from that event, and then everything quiets down, because then that's how you'll have cash flow problems. But if you know how big your pipeline needs to be by taking your goal and dividing it by your win rate percentage, and if you don't know what it is, then you're going to have to calculate it. There's lots of different ways you can calculate win rate. It's worth literally just typing it into ChatGPT and picking the one that works for you. We'll have another conversation about that. But if you take your goal and you divide it by a win rate percentage and you work towards that pipeline goal, there always needs to be that amount in the pipeline. So you're still moving deals forward. Some deals are going to fall out of the pipeline, as is natural, and some deals will fall out the pipeline and be won, which is great. But deals are going to be flowing through. If you've got deals sitting there and they're stagnant, even if your whole pipeline is at the number that is based on your probability, if it's stagnant, that's not a good thing. The deals should flow through and out in one direction or another. We just hope that many of them go through closed won, but they're not all going to go through closed won. So you need to account for that. And that's what I had to do, which gave me a much bigger number and scared me half to death. And then I went, oh, calm down. You've been doing this for other businesses for years, over a decade. You can do it for yourself. It's not a big deal. You just haven't seen your numbers like that to that degree before. And you know what it's like? It's different when you're starting off, because you don't necessarily have the momentum and such. But I'm going to end this here because I don't actually know how long I've been talking for. I need to put the timer up on the screen. So that is the behind the scenes of the things that I did. I needed to work out what my revenue forecast number was, which is the money in the bank, and then work out what my sales closed won number is, which, is the revenue forecast number is divided by 3 of the sales closed won number based on month, right? And then I had to work out how big my pipeline needed to be in every single month by dividing it by dividing that closed won number by the my win rate probability, right? Because once I then knew that, and I knew how big the pipeline needed to be, I could then take that number and divide that by the services that I have and the ratio of how many of each that I wanted to have. That would be a nice balance for me, because that's a whole different conversation. But let's say you just got one service. You take your big pipeline number, divide that by how many, divide that by your service, right? So take the number, how many of these do you need to sell to get to the bigger number, right? And then that's how you know how many new leads needs to be added every single month. Because ideally, Some of them will be falling out and you're going to lose some. It's okay. And you're going to win some. Great. But it tells you how many new leads, how many new opportunities you actually just need to be adding. Because if you at least add the how many that you need, if it's 20 that you need to add every single month because things are going to be churning, then you know, based on your own probability, the chances are you're going to win that smaller percentage. And that number, that new leads, new opportunities created, is such an important number, and people overlook it because they don't actually know it's a number you can calculate. But like I say, I think this episode's gone on for a little bit too long now. We'll be talking about win rate and all of that good stuff in the future. Please let me know your thoughts. How did you do your goal planning? And do you use win rate? What win rate calculation do you use? We'll be talking again soon. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please look at the list of other episodes. I'm sure there's another one that can help you. See you next time.